call Nicky Wagner. The Honourable Nicky Wagner.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Supporting the rebuild of Canterbury and Christchurch remains one of the National-led government's main priority. We want to make sure that Canterbury and Christchurch are even better places to live, to work and to raise a family. Since the earthquakes of 2010 and 11, we've appropriated $12.4 billion towards the recovery, the rebuild and the regeneration. And in the appropriations this year, 2015 and 16, there's $314 million for anchor projects, $60 million for red zone property acquisition and demolition costs, clearance and management, and $80 million for managing the recovery and regeneration. We expect to spend $16.5 billion in the Canterbury community by 2019. The enormous amounts of money, time, energy and hard work that has been expended over the last 4 years in the rebuild makes this one of the most expensive and ambitious undertakings in New Zealand history. And 4 years on, Canterbury and Christchurch are mostly in good shape. Despite the gloom and doom forecasts, our population has increased, and that's because we acted decisively to retain the population and employment immediately after the earthquakes. About 540,000 people live in the Canterbury region now, and that's up 18,000 since the 2006 census. And the rebuild is going well. This March, an estimated $13.4 billion worth of earthquake construction has been completed, and that represents about 42% of the progress through the physical rebuild. Our gross domestic product has risen. It was over 10% in the last calendar year, and our unemployment rate is 3.5%. And if you compare that to the national rate of 5.6%, in the last year, Canterbury has increased jobs by 15,500. So our city is coming alive at the same time, and I think there's real excitement about the activity in the centre city. We see the trend of Christchurch retail sales, it's continuing to increase, and our nightlife, including the restaurants, the bars and the clubs, we're back to about 95% of pre-earthquake levels. Recently, the bus exchange opened, office blocks and retail developments are being completed daily, and by the end of 2016, 1,700 public sector workers will have returned to the CBD. As a Central City resident myself, I'm delighted that the government has signed agreements with Fletcher Living for the construction of 191 new homes on 2 new inner city sites in the housing accord with the Christchurch City Council. 20% of those new homes will be priced at or below $450,000 so that they're eligible for the government's new KiwiSaver Home Start scheme for first home buyers. But we're also increasing the number of houses in the city at a huge pace. There's an $800 million East and North Frame residential precinct, which will complete about 940 townhouses and apartments, and that will provide a living accommodation for up to 2,200 people. And I think this project is fantastic for Christchurch. It will bring residents into the city centre, it will provide a mix of housing to encourage people of all stages of their lives, and they'll literally be able to live, to work and to play within the 4 avenues of the city. And that will provide a great community spirit and a quality of life which will help families and businesses flourish. So, our rebuild is well underway. But how are the people of Canterbury feeling? We've been through some very tough times, as you all know, and we certainly have learned that people deal with trauma differently. Every year we undertake the Sarah Wellbeing Survey, and in September 2014, 77% of the people surveyed rated their quality of life as good, or very good, and 20% of them reported an improvement over the previous 12 months. So this is the first time that these results have been comparable to the quality of the surveys about Christchurch pre-earthquake. So that indicates that we're getting back to where we were prior to the earthquakes.
I call the Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Chairman, thank you. I'm pleased